The first words he spoke sounded cold enough to end a dream before it even began. A tired single father looked at the woman standing in front of his small auto shop and quietly admitted that he needed a wife, not an employee. The words echoed through the dusty garage, but neither of them knew that this painful moment would become the beginning of a miracle that would change two broken lives forever. Sometimes the greatest blessings arrive disguised as rejection, and sometimes the people who seem the most damaged are the ones carrying the biggest hearts. Before we continue, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you love, and subscribe to the channel if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances. Your support helps these inspiring stories reach more hearts. In a quiet town outside Nashville, Tennessee, lived 38-year-old Nathan Carter, a hardworking mechanic who had spent the last 5 years raising his 8-year-old daughter, Grace, alone after losing his wife to a sudden illness. Every sunrise found Nathan unlocking the doors of Carter Auto Repair before anyone else was awake. His hands were rough from years of fixing engines, but the deepest scars were hidden inside his heart. Between repairing cars, paying bills, cooking meals, helping with homework, and comforting Grace whenever she missed her mother, Nathan had forgotten what happiness felt like. The shop barely earned enough to survive, and every month seemed harder than the last. Across town, 32-year-old Rebecca Collins carried a different kind of pain. After caring for her elderly parents until they both passed away within months of each other, she found herself alone, unemployed, and nearly homeless. She had experience managing offices but couldn't find steady work despite dozens of applications. One rainy afternoon, she noticed a faded sign outside Carter Auto Repair that read, "Help Wanted." Hope pushed her through the garage door, believing that perhaps even a mechanic's office needed someone willing to work hard. Nathan looked at Rebecca's application and then at the exhausted expression on her face. He saw someone carrying invisible burdens much like his own. Instead of offering her the position immediately, he confessed the truth that had been weighing on him for years. He explained that the business wasn't really what was falling apart. His life was. Grace needed someone who could help bring warmth back into their empty home more than the shop needed another employee. He wasn't proposing marriage, nor was he mocking Rebecca. He was simply admitting how desperately lonely life had become. Rebecca quietly thanked him for his honesty, left the application on the desk, and walked away fighting tears. That evening, Nathan couldn't stop thinking about the sadness he had seen in Rebecca's eyes. Meanwhile, Rebecca couldn't forget the little girl she had briefly noticed drawing pictures in the corner of the garage while waiting for her father to finish repairing a truck. The next morning, instead of searching for another job, Rebecca returned with homemade blueberry muffins. She explained that she still wanted to help, even if only for a few days without pay until Nathan decided whether to hire her. Her kindness surprised him, and although his pride resisted, he accepted. Days slowly turned into weeks. Rebecca organized customer files, answered phone calls, cleaned the office, and even learned enough about cars to explain simple repairs to customers. Business gradually improved because customers appreciated her honesty and cheerful attitude. More importantly, Grace smiled again. After school, she sat beside Rebecca doing homework while Nathan worked in the garage. The laughter that had disappeared from the little building for years slowly returned. Every evening felt less lonely than the one before. The greatest test arrived when a powerful storm damaged the shop's roof. Rainwater poured onto expensive equipment, destroying tools Nathan had spent decades collecting. Insurance refused to cover much of the damage because of an old paperwork issue. Faced with impossible repair costs, Nathan prepared to close the business forever. It seemed that every step toward hope was followed by another heartbreak. Rebecca refused to let that happen. Without telling Nathan, she contacted loyal customers whose vehicles he had repaired over the years. She shared stories of his honesty, generosity, and countless times he had fixed cars for struggling families without charging full price. Something extraordinary happened. One by one, people began arriving with donations, construction materials, used equipment, and volunteer labor. Local churches organized work crews. Former customers brought food. Retired mechanics offered their time. Within a week, the broken shop looked better than it had in years. Nathan stood in the middle of the repaired garage with tears filling his eyes. For the first time since losing his wife, he realized he wasn't carrying life's burdens alone anymore. Rebecca hadn't simply helped rebuild a business. She had restored hope inside a family that believed happiness had disappeared forever. Months later, Carter Auto Repair became one of the most trusted repair shops in the county. Rebecca officially became office manager, and Grace proudly introduced her as the person who had brought sunshine back into their lives. Nathan eventually realized that the words he had spoken on the day they first met had been clumsy but truthful. He hadn't needed someone to rescue his business. He had needed someone who reminded him that families are sometimes built through compassion rather than blood. If this story has touched your heart so far, please like this video, share it with your friends and family, subscribe to the channel, and help us spread more stories of hope, faith, and second chances to people who need them most. Special request, tell us in the comments, do you believe one act of kindness can completely change someone's life? 1 year later, beneath a bright American spring sky, Nathan and Rebecca stood outside the fully restored auto shop while Grace held both of their hands with the biggest smile anyone had ever seen. The garage that once echoed with loneliness had become a place filled with laughter, friendship, and hope. Nathan finally understood that life doesn't always send the person we expect, but sometimes it sends exactly the person we need. And Rebecca discovered that the job she thought she was searching for had quietly become the family she never imagined finding. Their story reminded everyone in town that broken engines can be repaired, broken businesses can recover, but the greatest miracle of all is when broken hearts find their way home together.